So I sent a note to Erin O'Toole's press secretary, Chelsea Tucker, asking her if she actually wanted to talk about the news story of the season. Great story for the Conservative base, something about which the Liberals are utterly vulnerable. And she came up with a series of excuses for why Erin O'Toole couldn't talk to me. He was busy. What about COVID-19? He had already talked to Rebel News months ago. These were some of her excuses. She was stubborn. But I can be more stubborn than just about anyone sometimes. And finally, she agreed to do the interview with Erin O'Toole via email. The deal was I would send my questions to her. She would pass them on to Erin O'Toole, or more likely a policy advisor. They would write a reply and send back the answers to me. It's not ideal. I reminded her we're in the video business, but look, email messages do work, and I acknowledge that is how a lot of politics are done. But by the time I heard back from her, it was almost the Christmas break. Seriously, more than a week of delay had gone by since we broke the scoop, and I was trying to get Conservatives to appear on our broadcast. So by the time we were in late December, it was a dead zone for journalism. So I held on to the written interview until the news picked up in the new year. Of course, last week was just nuts with what happened in Washington. And Mondays are always slow news days, so today we published the email interview with Erin O'Toole before the week began. And I think it's a great story for Erin O'Toole. It makes him look strong and decisive. He's talking about a winning issue for him. You know what I mean by that, right? I mean, he can be interviewed by the CBC about, I don't know, systemic racism or global warming or Greta Thunberg or whatever the CBC wants him to talk about. And even if he does a very careful job and does the best he can, he's always losing because he's talking about subjects that favor the Liberals. But if he can talk about China and national security and the military and the two Michaels, he'll always win, even if he doesn't do a great job talking about it. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that's how politics works. It's not even, what you say in a conversation, it's what the conversation is about. What's the ballot question, election strategists might say. Trudeau hates it when people are talking about China and spying in the military. That's a bit of a hint about what O'Toole maybe should talk about, don't you think? So that's what we did, and we published it this morning pretty positively. You'll see that we were careful to mention that it was an email interview, which is sort of obvious, because if it were a video interview, we would have the video of it. And we mentioned that the interview was actually done before Christmas, which it was. Other than that, I think it was pretty much verbatim. And it's good. That's the good news part of the story. Erin O'Toole is strong on China. Let me read a bit. I'm just going to read one of my questions I put to him. I said, the China files show that besides the winter warfare training, there were 17 other Canadian Armed Forces People's Liberation Army projects in 2019. Would you suspend any of those? And he answered, Canada should not be training Chinese soldiers. As Prime Minister, I would cancel any training exercise coordinated with the People's Liberation Army. Training Chinese military personnel while the Chinese Communist Party holds Canadians hostage and actively spies on and intimidates Canadians at home is dangerous. Canada needs to take a principled approach to foreign policy and stand up to China. It's a pretty good answer. Now I'm going to stop there. I asked him 4 questions and he gave 4 answers, and I think they were pretty good. And we published them without editing a single word that he said, without even changing a comma or an apostrophe. Nothing added, nothing take away. That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.